since they're all going to go crazy anyway. Dot, dot, dot. Firework. Then it was LS equals 157. Wait, where was I? Oh. A sorcerer, a priest. If that were true, he would have healed himself. Oh yeah, Bunge. Oh fuck, I lose track so easily. He's a snake. He's a diamondback. He's gonna shed his skin. Or he's a lizard. No, he's a lizard. Shedding. Frank is living with the Japanese. Maya and John were talking about interior decorating. Maya, more beautiful than ever, stalked him through the atrium, imploring his aid. Oh, yeah, I guess Tatiana got crushed to death by a Amazon robot. Nadia will be fine. Maya, though. Maya, more beautiful than ever, imploring his aid. He found himself imagining her as a lover, but of course this was crazy. She fucks everybody. She's a huge slut, and she slept her way to the top, and it's dangerous. Dangerous to get involved. Why not send crazy people in the first place? That's good. If Mars makes you crazy, why not send crazy people in the first place? Dot, dot, dot. But now it was LS equals 241. He walked over the honeycombed limestone parapet of Les Baux, and looking into the ruined chambers of the medieval Hermitage. I don't know what that word is. Or how to pronounce it. And looking into the ruined chambers of the medieval Hermitage. It was near sunset, and the light was a curious... Thank you, Purple Wayne. It was near sunset, and the light was a curious Martian orange. The limestone glowing. The whole village and hazy plain below, stretching out to the white bronze line of the Mediterranean, looking implausible as a dream. Dot, dot, dot. Except it was a dream. And he woke up and found himself awake and back in Underhill. Phyllis and Edvard had just returned from an expedition, and Phyllis was laughing and showing them a buttery lump of rock. A buttery lump of rock. It was scattered all over the canyon, she said, laughing. Gold nuggets the size of your fist. Then he was walking the tunnels out to the garage. The colony's psychiatrist, experiencing visions, falling into gaps of consciousness, gaps of memory. Physician, heal thyself. But he couldn't. He had gone insane of homesickness. Homesickness. There must be a better term for that. A scientific label that would legitimize it, make it real to others. But he already knew it was real. He missed Provence so much that at times he felt like he could not breathe. He was like Nadia's hand, a part of it torn away, the ghost nerves still throbbing with pain. and save them the trouble. Since they're all going to go crazy anyway, why not send crazy people in the first place and save them the trouble? Time passed. The Michelle program walked around. Hollow persona, empty inside. Only some tiny homunculus of the cerebellum left to teleoperate the thing. The night of the second day of LS equals 266, he went to bed. He was dog-tired, though he had done nothing. Totally exhausted and drained. And yet he lay in the dark of his room and could not sleep. His mind spun miserably. He was very aware of how sick he was. He wished he could quit the pretense and admit that he had lost it. Institutionalize himself. Go home. He could remember nothing. He could remember almost nothing of the previous few weeks. Or maybe it was longer than that. He was not sure. He began to weep. His door clicked. It swung open, and a narrow wedge of hall light shone in, unblocked. No one was there. "Hello?" he said, working to keep the tears out of his voice. "Who is it?" The reply was right in his ear, as if from a helmet intercom. "Come with me," the man's voice said. Michelle jerked back and bumped into the wall. He stared up at a black, silhouetted figure. "We need your help," the figure whispered. A hand gripped his arm as he pressed back into the wall. "And you need ours." A suggestion of a smile in the voice, which Michelle did not recognize. Fear thrust him into a new world. Suddenly, he could see much better, as if the touch of his visitor had sprung his pupils open like camera apertures. A thin, dark-skinned man. A stranger. Astonishment launched through his system. Astonishment launched through his fear. And he got up and moved through the dark light with a dreamlike precision, stepping into slippers and then, at the stranger's urging, following him out into the hallway, feeling the lightness of Martian G for the first time in years. The hallway seemed bursting with gray light, though he could tell that only the night strips on the floor. The hallway seemed bursting with gray light, though he could tell that only the night strips in the floor were on. It was enough to see well by if you were scared. His companion had short black dreadlocks, which made his hair appear spiked. He was short, thin, narrow-faced. A stranger, no doubt about it. An intruder from one of the new colonies in the southern hemisphere, Michelle thought. But the man was leading him through Underhill with an expert touch, moving in utter silence. Indeed, the whole of Underhill was soundless, as if it were a silent black and white film. He glanced at his wrist pad. It was blank. the time slip. He wanted to say, "Who are you?" But the silence was so blanketing that he couldn't bring himself to speak. He mouthed the words, and the man turned and looked over his shoulder at him. The whites of his eyes visible and luminous, all the way around the irises, the nostrils wide black holes. "I'm the stowaway," he mouthed and grinned. His eye teeth were discolored. They were made of stone. Michelle suddenly saw that. Martian stone teeth in his head. He took Michelle by the arm. They were heading to the farm lock. "We need helmets out there," Michelle whispered, balking. "Not tonight." The man opened the locked door, and no air rushed into it, even though it was open on the other side. They went in and walked between the black rows of packed foliage, and the air was sweet. Hiroko will be angry, Michelle thought. His guide was gone. Ahead, Michelle saw movement and heard a tinkly little laugh. It sounded like a child. Suddenly, it occurred to Michelle that the absence of children accounted for the colony's pervasive feelings of sterility, that they could build buildings and grow plants, and yet without children, this sterile feeling would still permeate every part of their lives. Extremely frightened, he continued to walk toward the center of the farm. It was warm and humid, and the air stank of wet dirt and fertilizer and foliage. Light glinted from thousands of leaf surfaces, as if the stars had fallen through the clear roof and clustered around him. Rows of corn rustled, and the air was going to his head like brandy. Little feet were scurrying behind the narrow rice paddies. Even in the darkness, the rice was an intense blackish green, and there among the paddies were small faces, grinning knee-high and disappearing when he turned to face them. Hot blood flooded his face and hands. His blood turned to fire, and he retreated 3 steps, then stopped and spun. Excuse me? Okay, hold on. I'm gonna need to smoke before this. All right. There's no fucking way. Section sign, thank you for 7 months. He took 3 steps, then stopped and spun. All right, okay, I'm just gonna read it as written. 2 naked little girls were walking down the lane toward him. Black-haired, dark-skinned, about 3 years old. Their oriental eyes were bright in the gloom, their expressions solemn. They took him by the hands and turned him around. He allowed them to lead him down the lane, looking down first at one head and then the other. Someone had decided to take action against their sterility. As they walked along, other naked toddlers appeared out of the shrubbery and crowded around them. Boys and girls both, some a bit darker or lighter than the first two, most the same color, all the same age. 9 or 10 of them escorted Michel to the center of the farm, weaving around him in a quick trot. And there, at the center of the maze, was a small clearing, currently occupied by about a dozen adults, all naked, seated in a rough circle. The children ran to the adults, gave them hugs, and sat at their knees. Michel's pupils opened further in the nimbus of starlight and leaf gleam, and he recognized members of the farm team. Iwao, Raoul, Ellen, Ria, Jean, Evgenia, all of the farm team, except for Hiroko herself. After a moment's hesitation, Michel stepped out of his slippers and took off his clothes and put them on top of the slippers and sat down in an empty spot in the circle. He didn't know what he was taking part in, but it didn't matter. Several of the figures nodded at him in welcome, and Ellen and Evgenia, seated on each side of him, touched him on the arms. All of a sudden, the children got up and ran together down one of the aisles, squealing and giggling. They came back in a tight knot around Hiroko, who walked into the middle of the circle. Her naked form, dark in the darkness. Trailed by the kids, she walked slowly around the circle, pouring from her 2 outstretched fists a little bit of dirt into each person's offered hands. Michel held up his palms with Ellen and Evgenia as she approached. He stared at her lustrous skin. Once on the night beach at Villefranche, he had walked by a gang of African women splashing in the phosphorescent waves. White water on black gleaming skin. The dirt in his hand was warm and smelled rusty. "This is our body," Hiroko said. She walked to the other side of the circle, gave the children each a fistful of dirt, and sent them back to sit among the adults. She sat across from Michel and began to chant in Japanese. Evgenia leaned over and whispered a translation, or rather an explanation in his ear. They were celebrating the Ariophany, a ceremony they had created together under Hiroko's guidance and inspiration. It was a kind of landscape religion. Like Epiphany? Okay. It was a kind of a landscape religion. A consciousness of Mars as a physical space suffused with Kami, which was the spiritual energy or power that rested in the land itself. Kami was manifested most obviously in certain extraordinary objects in the landscape. Stone pillars, isolated ejecta, sheer cliffs, oddly smoothed crater interiors, the broad circular peaks of the great volcanoes. These intensified expressions of Mars's Kami had a Terran analog with the colonists themselves. The power that Hiroko called viriditas, that greening fructiferous power within, which knows that the wild world itself is holy. Kami, viriditas, it was the combination of these sacred powers that would allow humans to exist here in a meaningful way. When Michelle heard Evgenia whisper the word combination, all the terms immediately fell into a semantic rectangle. Kami and viriditas, Mars and Earth, hatred and love, absence and yearning. And then the kaleidoscope clicked home, and all the rectangles folded into place in his mind. All the antimonies collapsed to a single beautiful rose. The heart of the Ariephany. Kami suffused with viriditas, both fully red and fully green at one and the same time. His jaw was slack, his skin was burning. He could not explain it and did not want to. His blood was fire in his veins. Hiroko stopped chanting, brought her hand to her mouth, began to eat the dirt in her palm. All the others did the same. Michelle lifted his hand to his face. A lot of dirt to eat, but he stuck his tongue out and licked up half of it and felt a brief electric shiver as he rubbed it against the roof of his mouth, sliding the gritty stuff back and forth until it was mud. It tasted salty and rusty, with an unpleasant whiff of rotten eggs and chemicals. He choked it down, gagging slightly. He swallowed the other mouthful in his hand, not of the body. He choked it down, gagging slightly. He swallowed the other mouthful with his hand. There was an irregular hum coming from the circle of celebrants as they ate. Vowel sounds shifting from one to the next. A, O, A, I, E, U, lingering over each vowel. For a minute, it seemed. I'm not reading it like that, okay? For a minute, it seemed. The sound spreading into 2 and sometimes 3 parts, with head tones creating odd harmonies. Hiroko began to chant over this song. Everyone stood and Michelle scrambled up with them. They all moved into the center of the circle together. Evgenia and Ellen taking Michelle by the arms and pulling him along. Then they were all pressed around Hiroko, in a mass of close-packed bodies, surrounding Michelle so that warm skin squashed up against every side of him. This is our body. A lot of them were kissing, their eyes closed. Slowly they moved, twisting to keep maximum contact as they shifted to new kinetic configurations. Wiry pubic hair tickled his bottom, and he felt what had to have been an erect penis against his hip. The dirt was heavy in his stomach, and he felt lightheaded. His blood was fire. His skin felt like a taut balloon containing a blaze. The stars were packed overhead in astonishing numbers, and each one had its own color. Green or red or blue or yellow. They looked like sparks. He was a phoenix. Hiroko herself pushed against him, and he rose in the center of the fire, ready for rebirth. She held his new body in a full embrace, squeezed him. She was tall and seemed all muscle. She looked him eye to eye. He felt her breasts against his ribs, her pubic bone hard on his thigh. She kissed him, her tongue touching his teeth. He tasted the dirt. Then suddenly felt all of her at once. All the rest of his life, the involuntary memory of that feeling would be enough to start the pulse of an erection. But at the moment, he was too overwhelmed, completely aflame. Hiroko pulled her head back and looked at him again. His breath was whooshing in his lungs, in and out. In English, in a voice formal but kind, she said, "This is your initiation into the Erephany, the celebration of the body of Mars." Yeah, no one does awkward sex scenes. Okay, this is your initiation into the Erephany, the celebration of the body of Mars. Welcome to it. We worship this world. We intend to make a place for ourselves here, a place that is beautiful in a new Martian way, a way never seen on Earth. We have built a hidden refuge in the south, and now we are leaving for it. We know you. We love you. We know we can use your help. We know you can use our help. We want to build just what you are yearning for. But just what you have been missing here. But all in new forms. For we can never go back. We must go forward. We must find our own way. We start tonight. We want you to come with us. We want you to come with us. And Michelle said, "I'll come." I'll come. The end of part 4. Ayo. Thank you. That was part 4, Homesick. Next will be part 5, Falling into History. That was not, that was something, wasn't it? I've not been reading ahead, but I think I'm gonna start. Thank you.